Picture this. The snow is coming down hard at Soldier Field in Chicago. The wind is just howling off Lake Michigan. And in that absolute mess, the Los Angeles Rams somehow, someway find themselves punching their ticket to the NFC Championship game. The scoreboard says 20-17 in overtime. A win is a win, right? Well, not exactly. For anyone who actually sat and watched this thing, that wasn't a roar of victory. It felt more like a huge, shivering sigh of relief. This was a win that felt shaky. It felt fragile. And, if we're being honest, it felt completely lucky at times. This was one of those games that leaves you with way more questions than answers. It was a performance that had fans and analysts just staring at their screens thinking, how did they pull that off? It really feels like the Rams survived this thing because the Bears made the last mistake, not because the Rams played better. And that's the paradox we're here to unpack.
All right, so here's how we're going to break down this chaotic win. First up, we'll really set the scene and talk about this win in the snow. Then we have to talk about the good stuff, the defensive dominance that kept them alive. After that, though, we got to get into the bad, the specific, questionable calls that almost gave the game away. From there, it gets even worse. We'll look at the ugly, a complete offensive malfunction. And finally, we'll give our verdict and look ahead to their massive showdown in Seattle.
So let's really paint the picture here, because you have to understand the environment to understand the game. This was pure, grueling playoff football. You've got the Rams, a team literally built to play in a perfect, climate-controlled dome in Southern California. And they have to fly into the heart of the Midwest in the middle of January to play a tough, physical Bears team on a field that's basically a sheet of ice covered in snow. This wasn't just another game on the schedule. This was a complete culture shock, a test of their toughness. And look, on paper, they passed the test. They got the win. They're one game away from the Super Bowl. But nobody watching felt like they dominated. The feeling that sticks with you is that they just barely got out of there alive. It was a true escape, a victory they had to snatch back after doing everything they possibly could to hand it to the other team.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How in the world did this happen? How does a team that seemed so hell-bent on losing, with just bizarre play calling, head-scratching strategies, and an offense that just couldn't get out of its own way, how did they still walk off that field with a win? It just doesn't compute. This wasn't some epic battle between two giants. No. This was like watching one team trip over its own feet again and again, only to be saved at the last second because their opponent tripped even harder right at the finish line. That's the question we're going to dig into, because the answer shows you both the Rams' championship-level strengths and their most terrifying season-ending weaknesses.
Okay, but for all the ugliness, you just don't win a divisional round game on the road in a snowstorm by accident. There had to be some bright spots, and in this game, those bright spots were shining so bright they cut right through that Chicago blizzard. It really all started with one player who seemed to take the whole Rams can't play in the cold narrative as a personal insult. And it was all held together by a defense that just would not, under any circumstances, break, no matter how many terrible situations their own offense put them in. This is the story of how they found a way.
You can just feel the attitude in this quote from running back Kyren Williams. I mean, think about it. All week long, what was the story? The Rams are a finesse team. They're a dome team. They can't handle real, physical, cold-weather football. You know, they heard that over and over again. And they didn't just ignore it. They ate it for breakfast. They used it as fuel. They came out with this massive chip on their shoulder, totally defiant, basically telling the world, yeah, keep talking. They were determined to prove that they were, as he said, built for anything, including a street fight in a snowstorm.
And listen, Kyren Williams didn't just say the words. He went out there and was that gritty mentality. Just look at these numbers. On a night where throwing the ball was a complete adventure thanks to the wind and snow, Williams was the guy. He put the entire offense on his back. 21 carries for 87 tough, grinding yards. I mean, every single one of those yards was a battle. But here's the most important part. He found the end zone twice. He scored both of the Rams' touchdowns. He was their entire pulse on offense, the lifeblood that kept them in a game where every single point felt like gold. He was their grit personified.
As absolutely vital as Kyren Williams was, he's not the main reason the Rams are playing for the NFC title. Let's just be crystal clear about that. The real story, the absolute, undeniable hero of this game, was Chris Shula's defense. Full stop. While the offense was sputtering and stalling and making decisions that made you want to pull your hair out, the defense was an immovable object. Yeah, they bent a little bit. The Bears moved the ball. But when it really, truly mattered, when their backs were against the goal line, they just refused to give in. They made the plays that saved the season.
So if you want to boil this entire win down to a single number, it's this one right here. 3. 3 interceptions in a playoff game on the road that's decided by just 3 points. Forcing 3 turnovers isn't just big, it's everything. The secondary was lights out. First, you had Curl jumping a route to kill a Bears drive in the second quarter. Then, in the fourth, with the Bears threatening again, Kobe Durant picks off a pass near the sideline, another massive takeaway. And then, of course, the big one, the interception of Caleb Williams in overtime that slammed the door shut and set up the game-winning field goal. Take away any one of those 3 plays, and the Rams are at home right now planning their vacations. It is that simple.
And this right here, this shows you the iron will of that defense. The Bears went for it on 4th down 6 different times. 6! That tells you Chicago's offense was having a really hard time actually finishing drives with touchdowns against this Rams defense. And the Rams D stood tall, stopping them on half of those attempts. A 50% stop rate on 4th down in a playoff game is just incredible. Every single one of those stops felt like a turnover. They stopped a 4th and 2 at their own 30. They stopped a 4th and goal from the 5. Huge, massive momentum swings that kept the Bears from ever pulling away and gave the Rams offense another chance to wake up.
All right, we have to pivot now, because for every amazing defensive play, there was a moment from the offense or the coaching staff that just made you go, what in the world are they doing? The bad in this game wasn't just a couple of small mistakes. Oh no, it was a pattern of really questionable decisions, a total failure to put the other team away that almost cost him their entire season. They were basically walking a tightrope over a canyon, and they were the ones shaking the rope.
You know, this was the most maddening part of the whole experience. The Rams had so many chances to take control of this game, to land that knockout blow, and they just couldn't do it. They kept leaving the door wide open for Chicago to hang around. I mean, think about that wild circus touchdown to Cole Kmet. Caleb Williams was scrambling for what felt like an entire minute, running back and forth for over 10 seconds, while the Rams pass rush just couldn't get him on the ground. He finally just throws it up for grabs, and Kmet makes a ridiculous catch. That play should never, ever have happened. It was a complete breakdown in discipline, and it gave the Bears life when they should have been buried.
But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, was more baffling than this play call in overtime. The situation could not be bigger. It's 3rd down and 1 single yard to go. You're in enemy territory, playing for a spot in the NFC Championship. You just need 1 yard to get a 1st down and basically walk into easy field goal range. So what do? Instead of just running it straight ahead, Coach Sean McVay calls for this slow-developing pitch play to the rookie Blake Corum. The play starts yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the entire Bears defense sees it coming a mile away. It was dead on arrival, lost 2 yards. But here's the part that is just mind-blowing. McVay called almost the exact same play back in Week 1 at the goal line, a play that he himself told the media afterward was the wrong call. To repeat that same mistake in the biggest moment of the season, that's not just a bad call. That's a fundamental failure to learn from your mistakes, and that is a huge red flag.
So, okay, we've gone from bad plays to something much, much bigger. We have to look at the entire offensive operation, because bad just doesn't do it justice. Some analysts call the offense horrific, and honestly, they're not wrong. This wasn't just about 1 or 2 bad calls. This was a complete, top-to-bottom, systemic failure. A failure in the game plan, a failure to adjust during the game, and a failure in basic execution. It was a total meltdown from a unit that's supposed to be one of the best in the NFL. Let's just go down the list of how messed up this was. First, the game plan itself made no sense. Why would you come out wanting to throw the ball 42 times in a blizzard with 20-mile-per-hour winds? It's just illogical. Then, like we just talked about, the play calling and gotta-have-it short yardage situations was just terrible. On top of that, even a Hall of Fame veteran like Matthew Stafford was making bad decisions, forcing throws, and completing less than half his passes. But maybe the worst part of all was the total lack of adjustments. The Bears were blitzing like crazy, sending extra guys on more than 40% of Stafford's dropbacks. And the Rams' so-called offensive geniuses on the sideline had absolutely no consistent answer for it the entire game.
So you're left just screaming at your TV with these questions. In a game where your only real weapon was Kyren Williams running the ball, why did you stop giving it to him for huge stretches of the game? Where was Blake Corum, the guy you drafted to be a key part of the offense? He had 2 touches all day. And how, HOW, does an offensive staff led by Sean McVay, one of the most respected minds in football, completely fail to figure out how to handle a blitz-heavy defense? It makes no sense. It was a total failure from the entire offensive brain trust.
So after all of that, the good, the bad, and the truly, truly ugly, the Rams are still standing. They are 1 win away from the Super Bowl. But what's the final verdict here? What should we take away from this mess as they get ready to face their arch rival, the Seattle Seahawks, for a trip to Super Bowl 60? Well, the answer is complicated. And if you're a Rams fan, it should probably be pretty concerning.
This is it. This is the definition of their win in Chicago. They are surviving. They're not dominating. They're moving on because their defense played like heroes and because the Bears made the last critical error. They didn't go in there and impose their will. They didn't execute some master plan. They won despite shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. And yeah, a win is a win, especially in the playoffs. But let me tell you, this is a dangerous, unsustainable way to play football. The competition only gets better from here, and the room for error shrinks to nothing.
And that competition gets a whole lot tougher right now. They're not playing a young, inexperienced Bears team anymore. They're playing the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that knows the Rams inside and out. This is a division rival that will absolutely not let them get away with these kinds of mistakes. You can bet Seattle's coaches are watching the tape from this Bears game and licking their chops. They see a clear path to victory. They are not going to let the Rams off the hook. They have the players and the coaches to exploit every single weakness we just talked about.
And that's what leaves us with this one final nagging thought. By winning this ugly, did the Rams just hand the Seahawks the exact blueprint for how to beat them? All of it, the offensive dysfunction, the bad play calling under pressure, the failure to adjust, it's all on film now for their biggest rival to see. And you just have to wonder if the flaws that got exposed in the snow in Chicago are going to be the very thing that sends them home one game short of the Super Bowl. So what do you think? Are the Rams a team of destiny that just finds a way to win no matter what? Or do they just get incredibly lucky against the Bears? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, do me a favor and hit that like button, and definitely subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one. Oh, and hey, if you're looking for a way to support the channel, check out our coloring books. They're great for kids, grandkids, even for adults. You can grab one using the QR code on the screen or just by clicking the link down in the description. Thanks so much for watching.